Hey Jay, how have you been?
Not too bad. How about you, Chris?
Well, I'm it's Christopher, and
No, it isn't. Go ahead.
I'm I'm kind of sad actually. I'm actually very depressed today.
Oh, why is that?
Well, I'm eating some peach cobbler ice cream, drinking some heavy alcohol because today is the day that I give up ever playing Dungeons and Dragons again.
What?
Yep, I'm done as a hobby, as everything. It's all over.
Now hold
100%
on.
done.
Hold on.
hmm
You did say playing
Well,
Dungeons and
playing,
Dragons.
DMing, looking up cool stuff, looking at the awesome books.
Okay.
I'm done.
So
As a franchise,
the
I'm
only way
done.
that this could happen is if you found something better.
No, it is because, um, and I hadn't shown you this. I've been sitting on it, so I didn't want to destroy you, and you were playing Dungeons and Dragons again. But Dungeons and Dragons. By the way, I had a fantastic weekend at Synergy playing the Magic the Gathering Dungeons and Dragons card game.
Yep.
Fan fucking tastic. But then when I came home and I saw what I'm about to talk about, everything died. It
I,
all
I,
shriveled up and
I'm
immediately
not.
just went
I,
poof
I'm not.
to
I'm,
dust.
I'm not even mentioning it because I want you to just get this out of your system. 'Cause I see what you sent me, and
Du-
it doesn't bother me.
Dungeons and Dragons has teamed up with my favorite candy, nerds, and are coming out with nerd based Dungeons and Dragon adventures. My life is over.
I didn't know they were coming out with adventures. It doesn't well, maybe if I click the entirety of the link and not just a
hmm
picture, it might tell me that.
They've
Yes.
jumped the shark. In this case, the candy bar. They've
Oh
got nerds.
oh, they definitely have jumped the shark. That goes without saying. Teaming up with a candy that literally everybody grew up eating. Um, Man, it's honestly it's kind of meta because they're nerds. And then you're taking a nerdy hobby and you're teaming them together.
You could try to rationalize and justify this as much as you want. It's D&D nerds. The candy. It's
Oh,
over. Everything
oh,
is done. My
there.
world has collapsed. Everything is over.
Just have another drink and eat another tub of peach ice cream. You'll be fine. Actually,
It's delicious.
why don't you sprinkle some D&D nerds on there?
Because the boxes don't get released till September.
And you know you're buying a box.
Oh yeah, because you have to buy the box to get the adventure.
Oh yeah, well you're definitely buying a box then. I didn't go through the entirety of the link. How much is the box? Uh, I'm asking for a friend. I'm just curious.
I don't know. I think you just buy a pack and they give you a code.
Oh, okay. I'll
But
pick it up.
so far, they've released two of the nerd party. We have the pink nerd as the rogue, and we have the purple nerd as the wizard.
Come on, I can tell you what every single one of these nerds are by looking at them.
I know, but they haven't released their profiles yet.
Yeah, but you got the red one that's wearing the cloak with the bow and arrow, like the leaf cloak, so he's definitely the ranger. The one with the stupid looking feather quilled hat and the lute, there's your bard. The one with the helmet and the shield that looks like you, that's orange, that's the fighter. And then
Uh-huh.
you have
Oh,
the one with the mace and the sun tabard that's yellow. That's going to be the cleric. Also, you know what I really like is the artwork on the pack of nerds because they have a mimic just eating, just his tongue's wrapped around a whole bunch of nerds candies. Are you there? Are
yeah,
you
I'm eating
eating?
ice cream.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
depressed.
Well,
Um,
I have something that might undepress you. And mind
What?
you, it's not something you don't already know about, but it's something we're going to talk about.
Uh huh.
Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, straight from
It
the
doesn't
dragon's
exist.
mouth. Yeah, it does. It's a real thing.
No.
I'm staring at it on the dnd.wizards.com website. It's not released yet, but it in October it will be.
This ice cream is delicious, by the way.
Oh, peach ice cream is one of my favorites. I'm sure it's delicious.
Hmm. Um,
Peach ice cream.
I
If you're
brought it
not,
home, and I was
yeah, if
like,
you're
I want a peach ice cream. Shelly's like, I've never seen peach ice cream before. Well, this is delicious.
she's never had peach ice cream before.
She never has, no.
Is she from the South?
Florida, which doesn't count.
Oh, that's not the South. No, okay.
No.
All right. Well, that makes a little more sense. Although you can buy a lot of peach ice cream right before you get into Florida if you're driving from Georgia.
Yeah.
Like every 2 miles, there is a gigantic store that sells peach everything along the way, and that's for about 50 miles from the Florida border. So,
So yeah. Um. Yeah.
but yeah,
I don't. I
Fizban.
don't believe. I don't believe in Fizbangs.
All right,
Guide to whatever. Because
let's.
you want to know why? Because nerds. Because nerds are coming out. We're on our own D&D adventure, and the world's going to explode before then. Because
ah,
it comes out November 1st or September 1st,
I just want to
and
point
then the
out
world ends.
it jumped the shark long before then. That this might be the final straw, but it definitely jumped the shark long before this. When you have mega huge uh, Hollywood actors like Vin Diesel showing up on YouTube playing Dungeons and Dragons. When you have half of the WWE roster playing Dungeons and Dragons, like it's jumped the shark at that point. It's gone full popular. It used to be popular to hate on D&D, and now it's the other way around. If you're not playing D&D or at the very least some sort of tabletop, you're the one who's wrong. Nerds rule the world, man.
Well, let me go put the ice cream away, and I'll be right back.
All right.
I had my 5 bites of peach cobbler ice cream. I am no longer depressed. Why doesn't everyone just do this? It just worked for me.
I don't know, man. Really, it's not like people, try to drown their sorrows in food or anything. They've never tried that before.
I have something called sadness burritos when I have like a really rough day. I go to Chipotle and I order 2 burritos and then I eat them both really fast.
I doubt I could actually eat 2 burritos from Chipotle all at once.
Please seek out real medical attention if you are depressed.
Yes,
Hashtag
please,
take
please.
care of yourself.
Don't don't
Um,
don't don't eat tubs of peach ice cream and eat Chipotle sadness burritos. Don't do that.
I uh, I did not look at Fizbang's Wonderful World of Pixar monsters.
No, I am
Um,
just now looking at it for the first time. I'd seen the cover art, but that was it. Uh,
what's it called? Fizbang's Marvelous World
okay.
of Dragons.
All right, so let's get it correct going forward. It is not Fizbang. It is Fizban. There's no G at the end. So Fizban's Treasury of Dragons.
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 All
I
right,
am
we'll
I
put a
am
link up to it so everyone can has easy access to it, so you can pre-order it.
yep. I'm super pumped for this book. I really am.
Um,
So do you want to
I don't
go
know.
through do you want
I'm
to go
on.
through the stuff that's on this thing, or shall I?
I'm trying to find it. I don't know where it
Do-
is. Details.
let me send you the link.
I know there were a bunch of details leaked, but I don't see them anymore.
There. I just put it in the Discord.
Put what where?
I don't know. I don't even know where am I at? I'm in the announcements.
Why did you post a no? Don't post in the announcements.
Click it. You can you can remove it later. I'll remove it after
I'll
you
move it
click
right now because
it.
somehow technology doesn't work for you.
Worked great for me. Did you find the link?
Yeah, so it introduces Gem Dragons to 5th edition, which is obvious by the cover because there's a giant gem dragon on the cover.
We already knew that because of the unearthed arcana. But
Hmm. Reveals the story of the first world and the role Bahamut and Tiamat played in its creation and destruction. By the
which
way,
world?
I was watching Day 9 play Magic Arena, playing with the Dungeons and Dragons set. He was just drafting it all day.
Right.
Um, he pronounced Tiamat uh,
Yamat.
Tiamat, yeah.
I never. I've.
And
You said that, and immediately that's where my brain went. I was like, no, that's wrong.
um, it was very weird. I actually had to rewind it and show it to my wife, and then I showed it to her, and she just looked at me with just the like, "The fuck he just say?" look on her face.
The fuck
It,
you
it
just
was the
say?
best. All right. So, unique draconic ancestries for Dragonborn, dragon-themed subclasses for monks and rangers, and new feat and spell options.
Yeah.
Offers
Yeah.
everything a dungeon master needs to craft adventures inspired by dragons across the world of D&D, the new dragon lair maps, and details on 20 different kinds of dragons. Presents a complete dragon bestiary, introduces a variety of new dragons and dragon-related creatures, including aspects of the dragon gods, dragon minions, and more.
Yep. And I had
I'm
I had planned on doing so much reading today, on previous things like Council of Worms and the Dragonlance settings, and then I never got around to it.
so Fizban,
Yes,
not Fizz a band, not Fizbang,
that is
not fizzy soda drink.
yes. Just
Fizban is a god from Dragonlance, correct?
Fizban is from Dragonlance.
Okay.
Let's
It does.
see.
It does say here, Fizban the Fabulous, doddering archmage, unlikely hero of the War of the Lance,
Yeah.
divine avatar of a dragon god, and your guide to the mysterious dragon kinds of world of Dungeon. So, is this the Dragonlance book everyone wanted,
No.
or is this the reference to Dragonlance is still a campaign setting?
This
Please
this is
continue to buy it.
this is neither.
Okay.
Which is the disappointment part for me. Um, like just reading what you said earlier reveals the story of the first world and the role Bahamut and Tiamat played in its creation and destruction. All right, what world? Obviously they mean Toril. Where Forgotten Realms is set. That's the obvious answer. I think Fizban. They're using characters from other settings that they have the rights to. They're just. I'm praying they don't have Fizban showing up in Forgotten Realms. They already kind of have played around with that with Tasha. Fizban, he needs to stay Dragonlance, but you know they're going to do what they're going to do. I got to thinking about it earlier, and we're going to come back to talk more about this. But I
So, what I-
I
what I what I do know about this, and I did actually
oh
um,
okay.
go through and I watched the D&D live thing that they did, and uh, sorry, I had to read something. They talked about a bunch about the book. They interviewed James Hyatt.
No idea.
Um, yeah, James Wyatt. They interviewed him, and he talked about it in length. Unfortunately, I didn't watch the whole thing. But one thing that people quoted from the conversation they had about it is that this book is not about dragons in any D&D world. It is a book about dragons in every D&D world.
Okay, well that's
Um,
obviously not true.
so
Because Bahamut and Tiamat are not a thing in Dragonlance. They are not a thing in Dark Sun.
right, which maybe does have it.
So
It says every
I think it's just
no,
supposed to be general dragon information.
well, another quote from him says, "Every dragon has echoes of itself and on other worlds on the material plane. A given dragon in the Forgotten Realms might have an echo in the world of Greyhawk. It can develop a sense of dragon sight to communicate in a waking dream with its echo on another world, and then eventually coalesce with its echo to form a great worm." So yeah, they're probably talking about other worlds and maybe even
You
dragons going up a tier.
you could talk like truthfully Bahamut Tiamat. You can sort of pin them down with Dragonlance because you have what's his name? Palandine, who was the good deity, and you have Takhisis. Takhisis, when she takes on dragon form, is a five-headed dragon. She's never used the name Tiamat there, but you can at least equate those. for Dark Sun, that ain't happening. There was one dragon in Dark Sun.
Right? It could be Bahamut.
No, it's not. Oh no, he's definitely wasn't Bahamut. He was an evil dragon who used to be a sorcerer. He was a human at one point.
Bahamut's a human. Didn't you see
Yeah.
the art card from Magic the Gathering?
Oh yeah. Well, trust me. Just I've read most of the novels for Dragonland or for
Um,
Dark Sun. That was
it
they hit
it
stopped
does
me with it.
have information of War of the Lance and the background information about Fizban.
Oh okay.
They again reveals the story of the first world and the role of Bahamut and team up played in its creation and destruction. Introduces Gleamstone dragons from the Feywild. They mention the stats, but does mention that they could be Archfey Warlock patrons. And I do remember the DM that was on the D&D live presentation. He does the another D&D show, I think, on Fridays. That our good friend Adam Shumpert drew artwork for. He mentioned that he really wanted to have a dragon uh, warlock patron, so now he gets that.
Yep.
And then new character options: the Drake Warden Ranger, Ascendant Dragon Monk, Dragon Ancestries for Dragonborn, Chromatic Gem and Metallic. They had some pictures of those as well. New feats, new spells, new magic items. Of the gem dragons, there's Amethyst, Crystal, Emerald, Sapphire, and Topaz. And they all have psionic attacks.
Yep.
Um, so another cool thing that I did see mentioned, and that I just brought up right here, great worms are a tier above ancient dragons.
Yeah.
Okay, they use
Ancient dragons, I think, go up to like CR 24, maybe 25, but ancients would be
right,
beyond that.
and they use the mythic monster rules from Theros.
Huh. I'm not familiar with those, so I'd have to look into that. But
It is another like level of like legendary actions
mhm.
that kind of fit with the monsters theme. They have dragon turtles and a bunch of rules about those. Uh, Draconic minions.
I don't
This
think
could just be Draconicians, whatever those are.
the.
Uh,
I wish they had draconians in this.
that's what I said. The dragon minions could just be Draconians.
Yeah, let's pray that's the case.
Tiny drakes, wyverns, a Draco Hydra, which is just Tiamat, maybe
Mm,
smaller ones,
Probably
and
smaller.
an elder brain dragon,
Well,
and a
that's terrifying.
dragon-sized horde mimic.
Uh, so where I don't know where you're seeing all of this information at, but that's amazing.
Because I have my sources that
Yeah,
you don't.
that's because you actually try to have sources, and me, I just go to the website, the main website.
There is some of the well, I did watch the live event too. So
That too. Yeah.
there's a picture of like three gemstone dragons sitting around a fire. They look kind of neat. There was this massive, amazing picture of a dragon turtle. Now, how big is a dragon turtle?
Pretty damn big. Like I'm seeing the picture you're looking at. I don't think they're that large. Like
Well,
that
this
thing
one is bigger
is.
than a Terrask.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's yeah. Wow, it definitely is. Like this thing is island sized. That is a fleet of ships,
And
and
it
look,
breaks into the
and
upper atmosphere.
that's a fleet of ships that it's staring down. And literally, a single claw of this thing is the size of four of those ships.
So this answers the question that everyone has asked. Why does the Terrask have defensive spines on its back?
Dragon
There you go.
turtles. Yep.
Dragon turtles. That's the answer.
Yeah, that
Um,
that dragon turtle could fit the Tarask in its mouth.
oh, on a side note, by the way, I was talking to Charles, the judge at Synergy, during the pre-release event.
Mhm.
And if you watch the stream, we did mention a couple of the cards, and I was giving him some more background information to a couple of the cards that should have been much more powerful than they are. And the fact I brought up that Asarak didn't have a spark, you know, The
Yeah.
guy who makes and travels planescapes like it's nothing doesn't have a planescape spark.
And yet he's
Uh,
still the most broke ass card in that set.
no, that would actually be the one that already been banned.
Well, no, it's banned because they didn't play test it, but Acerak actually has the potential to be broken all the formats. That
Yeah,
card that was banned, the Book of Exalted Deeds, is only broken in standard. Outside of that, no one cares.
well, we talked about the Terrask, and I
Yeah.
explained to him what it was, and he was like, "Let me think about it for a little bit, and I'll get back to you." There was a couple people playing the Terrask during the pre-event. And a few times he
Oh
came back
yeah.
and went, "You know what? It doesn't need trample because it just murdered this person because of this, 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 and this." I'm like, "That's understandable, but what about the fact that I can just block it with a 1/1 goblin forever?" He was like, "Yeah, why doesn't it have trample?" So, anyways, we talked
Yep.
about it on the stream all night, and he eventually came back to this card needs trample to be anywhere near worth it.
Yes.
And why doesn't it have trample?
Yep.
That is the level 2 judge ruling on that card, or his opinion on that card. There's only 4 of them in South Carolina, and he's like, "This card needs trample." So,
Well, maybe he should do game design. Um, like seriously, anybody who knows anything at all about the Terrask would have said this thing needs trample. Could have even made it smaller, and you would still think it needs fucking trample because it's the Terrask.
overall, I think this book is gonna be really good. It's gonna be up there along with, Mordenkainen's and, the
it's
other one that's not Xanathar.
I'm super interested in this because you know me. I want more feats. I want more magic items. I want more spell options. I want more
Mhm.
subclasses. Like that's what I want in my books, and this one
Yeah.
provides that. So I'm all about it.
So, a
It
third of
more
the book is stats, a third of the book is for DMs, and a third of the book is for players. They kind of went right down 3 giant chunks, bam, bam,
Mhm.
bam. And so essentially, this is like a mini campaign book, a mini player options book, and a mini stat book that what you want,
Yep.
all rolled into one.
Yeah, and I like the fact that now we get access to all these new dragons and variants and other stuff. The lore that they're going to come out with, most of it I'm just going to ignore or not. I'll read it, I'm sure, just to see where they've changed things from what everybody else already knows. Uh,
My problem is that dragons are really, really cool. They are the iconic monster of Dungeons and Dragons.
mhm,
The problem is that it's very hard to introduce a dragon into a campaign. Um,
I
if you've played
disagree.
if you played through Lost Mines of Phandelver, that's probably the best way to introduce a dragon. Okay, because if there is a dragon, more than likely there are going to be people who are going to be worshiping that dragon, whether it be kobolds, whether it be a human cult, whether it be something or other. So you have a dragon, and now you introduce another aspect of the unit. Because when a dragon shows up in a campaign, he isn't just there as a random monster encounter. He's affecting the entire area in some way, shape, or form.
Could
Even
be,
the
yeah.
small, weak ones, just like the Foundelver one is a young adult dragon. I think he's not ancient by any means, um, and he still has a dragon cult following him around. And on top of that, his power scaling is very able to defeat any party from like 1 to 10, just because it's a dragon. If you play a dragon correctly, and that's the important part of this, if you play a dragon correctly, you won't lose.
That's
The
definitely
par-
not true.
the party that goes up against that dragon needs to know that dragon is there. They need to work out a plan on how to beat that dragon, and then they have to execute the assault on the dragon in a particular way to basically exploit its weaknesses and come out on top. For example, um, if you take the any random dragon, let's just say it's a CR10 dragon, and you put up against a bunch of level fives, okay? Um, it's just gonna do strafing runs on them until it wins. Uh, if you
If
give them
that's
some,
possible.
yeah,
Being that he has his CR is 5 levels higher. Yes.
yeah.
they're probably just fucked.
Well, I mean that's a dragon you're gonna encounter though. You know.
Yeah, well, the damage output of CR10 monster is going to be too high for the damage output of a group of level fives.
Yeah.
A group of level eights, they're going to be on par with that thing just fine.
Right, but it still has a way of avoiding the conflict, getting away if it wants to,
Does it
just
though?
doing. It does.
Does it?
You would have to have a mage that is prepped for fighting that dragon at very least.
No, you definitely don't.
What, the
So
barbarian's just going to jump up there 60 feet and grab him, pull him
no,
down to the ground,
I
and go, okay, now we can hit you.
I've dealt with this. I've dealt with this a lot. Well, I say a lot. I've only run a few dragons. It's pretty rare where I run things, but
And that's my point. It
let
rarely
me finish.
happens.
No, no, let me finish. I have run many encounters where the barbarian in our party was useless. That's
Yeah.
normal. My players are used to that. Um, and as well, the other DM Johnny, we've run into the same scenario when with our group. We understand that flying monsters can be difficult to deal with. That being said, wizards, sorcerers, bards, etc. They have access to a ton of mind affecting spells and things like that
Hmm.
that bring dragons into range.
Hmm.
They have, let's see, then there's long ranged attacks. There's shit tons of that. A lot of it, fighting a dragon is going to be determined by your party makeup. If you
Hmm.
have nothing but a bunch of ground classes, oh yeah, you're in trouble.
Right.
You're definitely in trouble if all you have is a whole bunch of ground classes. If you have a bunch of classes that can do ranged attacks, that dragon's fucked.
No, the dragon's not fucked. The dragon will go, oh shit, that's a lot of range attackers. First round fly away.
Sure, if it decides to, that's going to be dependent on the situation, the scenario, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's why I said play correctly, because
A level two, if it's a white dragon, I think their intelligence is 8.
no, I'm looking at the one I first pulled up just to find the CR10 one was a young red dragon. Um,
Reds are intelligent.
that's the one I pulled up.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's why I was a little bit talking.
it has a 14 intelligence. All right. So at very least, this one is smarter than your average bear.
Mhm.
Black dragon would be 12. Let me just look search for
Yeah,
young
so
dragon.
adult white dragon has an 8 intelligence. A young has 6. These things aren't smart enough to know to fly away.
Let's see, bronze, copper, blue, white, gold, black, brass, red, green, silver, shadow. All right, that's all of them. So, bronze 14, copper
We
16.
we don't need to go through all of them. Just be
I know.
aware, not every dragon
Blue
is on the same
14.
par on the light. They're not the
All
same
right. So a
intelligence.
young white dragon is 6. So it has the intelligence of a young child.
Yeah, yeah, maybe a little
Uh,
higher, but yeah.
all right. So uh 12, 12, 14, 16, 14, 14. Okay, yeah, so only the white dragon will basically be like, "Huh, maybe I should stay and fight."
Uh, there was some
The
others that were lower, but
That was all of them. That was literally all the dragons.
I know you named them all. I think the younger blacks aren't that high,
12.
but okay.
So so the young dragons are more primal. I get that. Okay.
Yep.
But you just they do a lot of damage even in melee. 3 attacks, a bite, 2 claws, and then it has its breath attack. And that's just like the low end. Just dragons are
Dragons are dangerous. Dragons are
they're dangerous.
they are
Yeah.
supposed to be dangerous, and they are supposed to be difficult to handle. If you
So that's kind of my point. It's like you can't introduce one just randomly into a campaign, all right, and
No,
have it
not
show
random.
up.
There has to be a plan for it
Uh,
for sure.
there has to be a plan for it, so you have to plan for it. So essentially, if you're now planning for this aspect of it, you might as well just write the campaign around it, you know. And I mean,
A
that's what
portion a,
Fandelver does. A
a
portion of the campaign
portion
is
of it.
written around just that
Yes.
interaction with that green dragon.
Yeah. The one
So,
time I ran a dragon in the current campaign previously, it was a demonic dragon,
mhm.
and literally, you know, I don't know, 5 levels. of that campaign were at least focused on it. Because the players they had accidentally released it, so then they
Right.
had to go and deal with it. So they spent a long time traipsing around the world trying to find this damn thing.
And that's kind of what brings me around full circle to my point is that if you have a dragon in a campaign and if you just randomly introduce it, it's just going to kill your party. So you have to plan around it. You have to introduce it in stages. You have to think about how you're introducing these dragons. And now your campaign is involved around a dragon. And unless you want a dragon in your campaign, you're not going to be using Fizbangs. And that's kind of my point. It's like it's this really cool book about dragons and awesome dragon stuff, but there's no campaigns that can deal with dragons out there. There's no easy way just to stick in dragons,
Unless it's Dragonlance,
unless it's Dragonlance.
where
And
literally they have dragon riders,
and
and
that should have been this book.
I agree. I mean, I've been waiting, and that actually brings me back around to the point that I tried to get into earlier and hadn't been able to.
D&D nerds.
Yeah, no, definitely not D&D nerds. No, so what I had wanted to talk about was I don't think they're going to be doing anything Dragonlance for at least a few years. And I other than throwing in people like Fizban here and there, little homages towards Dragonlance. So, was there anything in Dragonlance for 4th edition? Like actual Dragonlance source books?
Um, no.
Okay.
Not
So
enough.
so so 3rd edition was the last time there were Dragonlance source books. I don't think there were any novels during 4th edition either for Dragonlance. Yeah, I don't know for certain of that, but I don't believe there have been any novels written from Dragonlance since like 3rd edition. And all the settings change as the novels were written. 2nd edition was the second age, I believe, of Dragonlance. 3rd edition was the third age of Dragonlance. And literally the world's changing as the stories are being told, as the books are, as the novels are being written. So until these new novels come out, which are supposed to be, I guess, late this year or even next year at some point, they're not going to release material like core material for Dungeons and Dragons on that until those novels are out. And they
Yeah.
probably won't release anything like that until all of that, I think there are 3 novels that are being written. They won't release anything till all 3 of them are released.
Mhm.
So we've got a couple years, I think, before we see anything legit Dragonlance, if they even touch it. Which irritates me because I fucking want more Dragonlance, but I get it.
I need more Dragonlance. I need more
I do.
dragons in my lances.
I do. I mean, I could take 3rd edition material that I've got and easily run a campaign if I really wanted to. But I would like to have I want somebody else to make the 5th edition shit for me. Let's be honest. I'm lazy. I don't want to have to make all these fucking subclasses
Well,
because
I mean, they're fun though. It's fun doing that.
it can be. I won't lie. But there's a lot of subclasses, man. I mean, you have I don't even remember all the names, but yeah, there was shamans. That was one of them that you could play. There was a cleric that didn't worship gods that you could play. I don't remember what they called them. Then all of the knights. There was like 5 or 6 knightly orders, and each one, as you went up through the knightly order, you would become a different type of knight.
Hmm.
It's like there's so much stuff that would have to be made. I know they don't have to do it exactly that way, but that's how it was in 3rd. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I did a quick look. I didn't see anything for Fizbangs in 4th edition. It
Fizz
could have been, but it was so small that
Fizz
it just didn't.
Fizban,
Listen,
Fi
listen. Okay, there is a
Fizz
card in
Fizban.
Hearthstone. Listen. There's a card in Hearthstone called Fizbang, and he's a gnome. And what he does is you put him and only him in your deck, and then he randomly assigns you one of the pre-made decks in the game.
Alright, well,
Um,
Fizbang is in Hearthstone.
so
We're talking about
so
Dungeons& and Dragons.
because they're using a name that's already got a place in my brain and already has a neuron firing for that, it's going to stay that way forever.
Well, cool. Every time you talk about Fizbang, I know you're talking about Hearthstone.
Okay.
Now, when you say
Um,
Fizban, you're talking about the guy from D&D.
so Fizbang's ice cream truck of dragon scales. Um, I think overall it's going to be a fantastic book. Um, and I'm hoping they release like who all contributed to it soon and all that good stuff because it looks great and I want to know more about it.
Ooh, I like the.
Um,
I just saw the alternate cover. I might have to get that.
I would if I didn't already have every other cover for every other book. It just annoys me. Um, I'm looking forward to its release, and I think it's going to be really a really good book. And if you want dragons, it's going to be an amazing book for dragons. I want to use it just for the dragon turtle because I like that dragon turtle.
Yeah,
That dragon
and
turtle's all what I am about.
yep. I have actually never used a dragon turtle, so it might be time. Might have to find a place for it and wrap my campaign around it.
And that's something I wish they would do. I wish they would take a big monster like this dragon turtle here and like attack Waterdeep with it, you know,
Well, that
and
thing would
have that
just
be
sit on water deep, man.
right. Tell
It,
me
it
why
could.
is that walking statue a 4/4?
Yeah, yeah, for real. No, this thing, man, that at least the picture that we saw, that thing could come in literally just spin in a circle, like a cat does right before it lays down, sit down on Waterdeep, and Waterdeep's gone. Like it does not exist anymore. Then this thing just stays there for hundreds of years, and all the locals from outside, they pack up, they move. Next thing you know, you got people from Baldur's Gate. They're building a house on top of this giant hill that's now here that didn't used to be here. But next thing you know, you've got this massive city that's new Waterdeep that's now sitting on top of this dragon turtle. Of course, nobody knows it's a dragon turtle. All they know is this giant mountain appeared. Waterdeep is no longer around. Yeah,
Well, remember
sticks.
remember remember that D&D meme where the guy was DM was talking about how he sent his players back in time and he
Oh
described
yeah,
the area
yeah.
back in time and there was a mountain there
Mhm.
and when the players went back to the future the players commented, "Man, I sure can't wait to hear what happened to that mountain." Dragon
Yeah,
turtle.
dragon turtle. Yep. Now we know the answer to that question that we talked about in a podcast like 20 episodes ago or something.
It was more like a year ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Um but yeah, it was I'm really excited for uh this book. And I'm disappointed because I don't think I'll ever use it other than the player options, but again, that's not me using it. And I know I'm going to have to restrict it a lot because no, you can't be a gem dragon.
I don't think it's going to allow you. Well, it might because that was a sort of second edition Council of Worms thing. You like Council of Worms was a campaign where you played dragons, but everybody
Yeah.
played dragons, so it was pretty well balanced. Uh, I don't think this one's going to specifically let you play dragons, but it's going to have all of the
No, no,
we
it does. It has as player options for you playing gem dragons.
Yeah, if it's going to allow you to play gem dragons, it's going to allow you to play all dragons. I don't know that that's the case. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But we
No, no,
know,
I'm dragonborn gem dragons is
yes,
what I'm meaning.
it's definitely going to have those because we have seen them. They were in the Unearthed Arcana, and we talked about them a little while back.
Speaking of Unearthed Arcana, and to stop talking about dragons for a minute, because I don't,
Sure.
I've said the word dragon so many times now, it doesn't it's
Well, it
lost
is
all
a
meaning.
podcast about dungeons and what else?
Dragon turtles.
Yeah, well, that too.
Um, they also talked about Strixhaven quite a bit.
Okay,
Um,
the new book.
the new book. They are not publishing any of the mage classes in the UA
Oh, the
in
ones
Strixhaven.
that we meant to talk about and that did not.
Yes, and it's probably a good reason we didn't because they're not publishing them.
Well, we
They've
did find some broken stuff, if I recall correctly.
they basically dropped them down into feats.
Okay, so they took the abilities that those subclasses were going to have and just made them into feats.
I would think like how houses are probably handled it from Eberron, probably along that line.
Okay, so sort of bloodlines or something of that
Yeah.
nature. All right. As long as they took that super fucking broken one out. All right. I don't
Yeah,
remember
I don't
which one
remember
it was or
which
what it
super
did,
broken
but
one was. Yeah,
yeah, at this point I don't recall, but I know that Panda went off on a fucking tirade about it on stream,
yeah, he
which
did.
which I can't blame him because I read it and I was like, "What the fuck is this garbage?"
Um, so that was an interesting piece of information, and also the one that affects me on a personal level. No Alkin,
What?
no Alkin, and Wild Beyond the Feywild.
Are they gonna have
Feywild.
rabbit folk?
Rabbit folk are in.
Then you
Fairies
have
are in.
then you have to have Alkin.
Rabbit folk are in. Fairies are in. Hobgoblins are not in.
Well, they're already out. Hobgoblins are already a thing. They don't need
Right.
to really add that in.
No owl folk in the Feywild book.
Huh. Curious. But we've seen them. They're in the
Next piece
Strixhaven.
of information. Owl folk are in the Strixhaven book instead.
Okay. Okay. Well, that makes way more sense then. Did,
By the way, it's not owl folk anymore.
oh, is it Alkin?
No, it's not Alkin. It's not owl folk. It's Owlin.
No,
O
no,
L W I N. Owlin.
no. It is not. It is
Yes, it
Alkin.
is.
It is
It,
Alfolk.
it is Owlin. Like
Yeah,
I stubbed my toe on a chair. Owlin, Owlin, Ow, Alan, Alan, Alan.
man. I'm. This is the hill I die on. This is the hill I die on. No, sir.
Uh, I've already given up because D&D nerds, but
Yeah, no.
I mean,
I'm generally pretty forgiving about things, but whoever decided to make that change from Alkin or Alfolk and call it Owlin, they need to be without a job. Like seriously, fire that person. Fire them. They are not good for D&D.
turns out it was like Chris Perkins.
I don't care. He's gone. Out of here. Gone. Don't give a shit. It could be Ed Greenwood himself and I want him gone.
uh,
Fucking
so
hill I die on.
you stopped playing D&D because of Alan. I stopped playing D&D because of D&D nerds.
All right.
We're doing
Well,
great.
yeah, we're pretty soon we're going to start up a new podcast, Grumpy Pathfinder Masters. That's what it's going to be.
I'll never play Pathfinder.
I would. I sure as hell would. I mean, it's third edition all over again.
No.
If D&D keeps going the route that it's going with Owlin, I might consider it. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't. I'd go to Hackmaster first, and we all know it.
Yeah, we'll all go to Hackmaster
Yep.
probably. Um, I'm not too upset with the name change. I found it funny that they regulated him to Strixhaven and nothing else. But it makes
I
sense because they
yeah,
have the owl art everywhere.
yeah. Like I'm perfectly good with them releasing the Owlkin in Strixhaven. Uh, they don't have to be in the Feywild book. If they're in Strixhaven, you could just run them in the Feywild, and it works just fine. So your current campaign is not screwed up by this.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
So
did you run it? You ran it this weekend. The
yes,
Glideski Roost. Uh,
Glideski Roost,
yeah,
yeah.
the malevolence of Glideski Roost.
So they're into chapter 2. Oh, I'm calling it Act 2 just for
Uh,
my brain. And the plan was for them to kind of go around and talk to some NPCs around town, get some ideas of what's going on. And because it's a stream, I wanted them to go down a very particular path. Okay, because the path I prepared for. And in the book,
oh,
when I published the book, it's pretty much you can do any of these things that you want in any order. And once you've done 3 of them, okay, then you can then you'll get the actual like here's the progression quest
yep.
for you. So I had asked my group, hey, do me a favor. What do you want to do when you get there? It's like, oh, I want to talk to this owl. I want to talk to this owl. I want to talk to this owl. And Charlie's like, oh, I want to talk to the dwarf. I'm like, okay. So I wanted them to play test the dwarf quest. Okay. And they definitely didn't do that. What
Yep.
had happened was my wife got sick before the stream.
Oh.
So all of the prep work that I did, seeding the bandits to her from the dwarf because she wanted to talk to the dwarf, was gone. And then I kept seeding the dwarf to the players over and over again, and they did not want to talk to that dwarf at all. They were just like, nope, I don't
I
like
don't
the
like
dwarf.
dwarves.
I want to go over here. And I kept reseeding and reseeding and reseeding the dwarf. And, they knew, like, oh, the dwarf is, he's talking about bandits attacking. It's like, oh, cool. Whatever. Whatever.
Yep.
Bye.
We don't care about the bandits. Never mind the fact that and I'm just making this assumption here, but never mind the fact that you had spent, days putting all the tokens into place and everything to run that portion of it.
Let's just say day. Just put it at day.
Yeah.
Um, I had an encounter set up. I just wanted to play test it, and that's why I kept pushing it so hard.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, they just didn't do it. So I didn't have any of the other side stuff prepped.
Yep.
So I had basically the day end, and they move on to the next day. And when they moved on to the next day, I gave them the actual quest from the town leader to go off and do that specific quest. And they gladly accepted that one and ran with it. Unfortunately, there's no bandits that way, so couldn't do any of the bandit stuff.
All we wanted was bandits. That's it. Pretty
But
simple.
one of the encounters is an encounter with a bunch of mutated deer.
That sounds cool.
So I didn't know I didn't really want to change the stats from the base stats are in the book from a certain couple beasts. Just how they're presented is different. Okay.
Mhm.
So there's a giant goat deer, there's a tiger deer, and then there's an elk deer. All
Oh, wait a
right.
minute. Are these things from Avatar?
No.
You sure? They're not from the Airbender, because that
Like I
was the
said,
thing. It's just you take two animals and you make one animal. It's kind of like
in,
that
in
alchemy
game
thing that you do.
they're all deer. Okay. But the stats I used was giant goat, tiger, and elk. Okay.
All right.
So the giant goat one had a bunch of horns on its head, and I just picked a 4-horn deer that I found online. And what it would do is it would basically just charge and smash you with its 4 horns because it's a goat.
Hmm.
And then I'd also do a bite attack using the same stats for the ram.
Yeah.
And I basically had that deer's head, like I had it open its mouth, and then the mouth tore open all the way down, past down the throat. So it had like this giant mouth, kind of that would just like devour you whole. So it would ram you, and then it would try to bite you.
Right.
And then the other one was a tiger, so it did like a pounce attack, and like its legs split off into multiple different like tendrils and stuff, and it would slash you with that. And that was just the mechanics, the flavor differences to the mechanics that I used. Um, and then the elk showed up. Now the elk was a little bit different because the token that I had found specifically for this was a 8-legged deer with tentacles coming out of the mouth.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And I was like, that's really cool. I'm definitely going to use that. And I'm going to use the tentacles that can launch 30 feet to help pull some of these owls down to my level.
Yeah. Make a grapple attack and reel them in.
Yeah. So that was the whole point. And, I'm designing around a lot of flying characters. So it worked out well. I did grab an owl from the sky, did pull it in, and it did engulf it just for fun.
Yeah.
However, did you know that the elk has an attack that where it just hits with its hooves and does 48 plus 4 damage?
Why, yes, actually, I did know that.
Oh, I didn't.
When you said that you used an elk, my immediate thought was, "Oh, you don't fuck with elks. Those things will mess you up."
I didn't. I didn't look at the stacks beyond. Oh, it's an elk. That works. Click.
Yep. Yeah,
So
that's why when you're able to shape change into elks as a druid, you do.
so
They're
I
also
didn't
they're
know
also
that.
really fast, if I recall correctly.
I had planned for them to fight 2 deer first and then pull the elk in later.
Mhm.
Okay. Like show the corrupted deer. Go, oh shit, these things are fucking weird looking. But we were running out of time, so I brought in the elk from a distance after like 2 rounds. So it comes running in, it grabs an owl from the sky, starts eating it, And then the ranger goes ahead and does like gets behind it to flank it to give flanking to everybody. Everything's going cool. They're gonna win. I gave it a lot more hit points than what it had, or else it would have died in like 2 hits.
Sure, yeah.
Um, and then I just clicked because I had blaze on my arm, so I couldn't roll my dice. So I clicked on D&D Beyond. I hit roll. It rolled like a 24, 26, or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
And then I
Blame the
just clicked.
cat. Blame the
And then
cat.
I clicked the damage button. And I didn't think anything of it because I didn't think it was going to be doing anything that crazy. And then I just saw this like fistful of D8s roll across the screen. And I was like, slow motion. Oh no. And then it does 28 damage, I think,
Oh my god.
to the player.
At
And he
level
goes,
2, I
2.
think?
Yeah. And he goes, well, I'm down. I was like, oh no, what did I just do? This is terrible. They're going to die.
And it's all because they didn't want to talk to the fucking dwarf.
And so I start going through, and the next round comes around. They're just beating the crap out of it. The guy on the inside is just like stabbing the elk from the
Oh
deer
my
from inside, and he doesn't have any strength. He has like a negative, like it's like 6 strength. So like
right.
he's hitting and doing all right. That's 1 damage.
Just give me another 40 rounds. I'll cut my way out of here. Nothing to worry about.
um, but they picked everybody. They killed the elk after it hit somebody one more time. It hit the barbarian.
Yeah.
He wasn't raging, but he didn't drop, so that was good. And I was just like, "Oh no, I'm gonna kill somebody."
Yeah.
And I specifically was like, "Okay, I'm gonna hit the ranger because he's behind it, because like just horse kick."
Yeah.
And then it turns around and horse kicks the other guy. Just,
Clobbered someone.
uh, uh,
The game we played this weekend, Johnny was running, so I was playing. It was the Oriental campaign. It wasn't nearly as dramatic as somebody getting swallowed by a tentacled elk,
mhm.
but so he actually did something that's kind of neat that I've never. I've always wanted to do it, but it's so sort of difficult to do, and we sort of found that out this time. So he ran a little bit of an adventure that was uh, God, what do they call it? It was an investigation. So we're traveling along and we come across this guy who's frantic. He tells us that his wife is missing and that this creature just showed up at his house when it was nighttime. And he doesn't want to go back to the house just yet, not by himself. So we agree to go and help him out. So we then go back to the house with him. He says, okay, he's going to go inside, grab a couple of things, and then head out to the city. He can't be here during all of this. And we rolled insight checks that were okay, like 16 or so. He seemed to be telling the truth as far as we could tell. So we just go along with it. He grabs a couple things from inside the house. I went inside when he did that, but wasn't really watching him super close. So he grabs his stuff, hauls off, and he tells us that he's going to go stop by his brother's. He gives us details of where his brother's place is at. So we start looking around. We want to sort of investigate the place to figure out what this monster is. Is there anything that's going to help us figure out what we're going to be fighting when nighttime rolls around? And we start checking all over the place, everywhere. Check the barn. We check the field. He had a bunch of like an orchard with a whole bunch of apple and fig trees and stuff. We checked the well. We checked the outhouse, and just different locations. There was a copse of trees out in the back that we looked at, and we failed every single investigation roll for the next hour. I don't think anyone rolled above a 9. And I make investigation checks. Somebody else makes them. Like we're just all making a whole bunch of investigation checks and just failing constantly. Uh, every so often, somebody would get like a 15 or a 16, which was just enough to get a little bit of information. It took us 2 hours probably to sort of piece this whole thing together, and we're on a bit of a time schedule because we're trying to figure this stuff out before dark. So we end up finding out basically through talking to the guy's brother, which we finally had to go do because we could never pass an investigation check. We find out that there was a guy that was working at the farm. We go talk to him. We start piecing together the details of this thing, and it turns out the guy murdered his wife because she was having an affair with the guy that worked for them. Uh, so and this is the Oriental Adventure where, yeah, it's sort of that sort of lore. When bad things happen to people, they tend to come back as ghosts or spirits that are angry. So we managed to get back to the farm with like 5 minutes to spare before nighttime falls, which gave us just enough time to figure out where she was buried and sort of correct the problem. And it's one of these things. If we had made two rolls, we would have figured this thing out in no time and could have just moved on with the rest of the night's adventures. And honestly, I'm glad we failed so many rolls because this thing was way more intense having to get back there with no time to spare at all. Are you awake?
Oh, by the way, I'm muted. So,
Oh, there you are. Welcome back. Yeah, hopefully you haven't been trying to interrupt me or anything.
no,
Were you eating more ice cream?
I moved on to Cheetos.
Okay, well, that's fair. Yeah, this
Yeah, the,
happens
the
this
D&D
happens
hasn't branded
occasionally.
with these guys yet. The Chester Cheetah shows up with the D&D character sheet. I'm out.
I I probably would leave the game at that point. But yeah, anyway, it was rather fun. Sometimes it's more fun to fail rolls.
It is definitely a lot more fun to fail rolls.
Yeah,
Um,
it makes it more interesting than constantly rolling through everything because you can't fail a roll.
Actually, when I was streaming at Synergy, some kid came up and was talking to me about the card games and stuff he was playing. He was playing the Dragon Ball Super, or Dragon Ball card
Mhm.
card game.
Yeah,
Um, Showing me those cards, um, and he told me about he played D&D once and something about how like he was playing a dwarf paladin or a dwarf mage, I can't remember which, and
right.
he critically failed a roll, and that caused him to get knocked down. And then, oh no, yeah, he was a wizard, and then his friend was a paladin and picked him back up, and then insulted him for falling down in combat. So he then basically just attacked his friend
Yes,
and killed
yes,
his friend.
yep.
Uh,
Oh my god, new players are the best because of that shit. Uh,
that reminds me, I have to go back out to 1, 2, 3. Next weekend, I got to. Ooh, next weekend. Uh oh.
I saw the pictures for the costume contest and such.
I was gonna say next weekend is the uh Green Dragon thing, which I probably have to get some scheduling conflicts with,
Uh oh.
and just those players, they want to go out there and just go crazy with those the magic shop. They're all gonna die.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Green Dragon. That's the other one that you've occasionally been running, where the younger people keep wanting to mess with
Yeah,
the magic shop, and the parents have sort of been wrangling them as best as possible, or at least the adults in the group have.
I mean, please don't. I want to know what happens if I finger to death a little second level 2 character.
What happens when you cast Tsunami on a level 2 character? Let's find out.
Oh, that reminds me. I have a relatively new to my game player, and she's still kind of like feeling out my DM style. I'm still kind of feeling out her player style. And I sent him to the bathhouse in the Owl World,
Right.
to kind of just go relax. And what I've added in is basically if you spend a short rest there, you pay for a short rest in that location, you get the benefits of a long rest. Okay,
Yep.
it's not too crazy. You got to be in town, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have to pay 50 silver. But they had a discount
You
of 25 silver.
you mean 5
So
gold?
silver.
Go ahead.
And
Go ahead.
the other thing is you could also like do a chore for them, or you could uh, give them a story permanently,
Yep. We know how
or
that ends.
yeah, or you can basically just pay your way through. So two of the owls did it, and two of them didn't. One went back to his house and got showered there and fixed his feathers up or whatever. And the other one decided to go to the sacred pool and bathe in there. So
Hmm. All
didn't
right.
expect that to happen. Okay. Have to add in notes now that Rubra is very overly protective of the sapling in the surrounding area. And she just starts bathing in the pool like owls do. Just Google owls bathing. It's amazing. And
Like,
I
yeah,
had
YouTube.
Rubra the hammer dryer just show up out of the blue, vine her to the ground, and just like start just tossing her around, screaming at her that how dare she defile the sacred pool. And I'm very glad I am playtesting this because I'm adding a lot of extra stuff that I didn't think I'd ever have to add.
I mean, that's why you do it. You know, I've added a lot of stuff in my campaign already that was never planned, and now I'm sort of having to flesh it out and figure out what other little chunks of this information can I add in? Where does this go? I've added NPCs that were never planned, and now I have to figure out how they're actually going to tie in long term. And that's why you run this stuff. You know,
Yeah.
you get to be creative when you weren't planning on it.
Another thing that happened too is I got messaged on Reddit because I had my Dread of the Ice Devil for sale for $1 when the anniversary happened, and someone was like, "Hey, I really wanted to buy this. It's $5. You know, did the sale end?" I was like, "Yeah, the sale ended. But hey, here's another link for it, so you can get it for $1."
Nice.
You know, like you just have to tell me how the module went. And I want to read you what he responded
Okay.
with. After running this module, all I can say is, "Holy Ice Devil, that was fun!" All in caps, two exclamation marks. The rush to stop Chimera from completing the ritual, the Dread Frost breaking free from its ice. The stakes were high, and my players were at the edge of their seats trying to survive the battle with the Dread Frost. My table even said that this was the most fun they've had in Icewind Dale. I really hope for more scenarios like this where demons are slowly coming into Icewind Dale.
Congratulations, whoever you are. You're gonna get your wish. It might take a little while, but I have the feeling that might happen.
So,
I have a question for you. I'm guessing he did not say anything about somebody getting stabbed in the ankles.
no.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
But the way I'm reading this, it sounds like they didn't stop the Ice Devil from getting released.
Message him, find out. Also, ask about the ankle stabbing.
I think that's just me playing Mind Masters a very particular way.
No, I love talking about it. That's all. You know, they only did what 30 something damage
Hey, at
with
least I didn't crit
one
you.
attack. I know you only rolled like an 18 or a 19. Wasn't quite a crit.
But yeah, I am working through the sequel for Dread of the Ice Devil. I already got my artist hard at work, and
Yep. Yep. You got
I
plans.
should have it drafted up by the end of this week, and
Excellent.
I'll give
Yep.
it to you
Yep.
for you to try out. Um, Maybe even run it once.
Oh, I have an
Um,
I actually have an idea for that. I actually might be able to run this. It'll take a little while before I can, but I might be able to run it for you.
which would be nice. Because I didn't run Dread of the Ice Devil before I published it.
Oh, I know.
I did I just kind of knew like this would work,
It was solid. I
and
mean, you know, it wasn't going out doing anything crazy. Um, you know, it was a very solid one shot.
but one thing though is no one talked about that secret boss, finding him and fighting him. So
Yeah.
that's coming into play next adventure.
Yeah. Maybe people should have dealt with him.
Maybe people should have dealt with him.
All
Nobody
right.
did.
Well, I think that's about it for this week.
I
Thanks
still
everybody for
have
listening.
5 more things to talk about.
Save them, and we have next week's podcast.
They won't be relevant for next week.
All right. Well, go for it.
I
We're
didn't win
running
the trap
along.
contest. I didn't win the trap contest.
Oh, that's a shame.
I know.
It
Made me
is a
sad.
shame.
That's all.
Oh, okay. Bye, Craig. Hey, guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Check us out on Facebook
There's no at in Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Grumpy Dungeon
and on Twitter.
That'd be at Grumpy_DMs.
And on Instagram.
at Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
And also be sure to follow us on Twitch.
Twitch.tv/Grumpy Dungeon Masters, where we play Rime of the Frostmaiden every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Fuck yeah.